Hi, my name is Neha Sinha. Thank you so much for joining us here. We are going to talk about the basics of conservation today. I work for the Bombay Natural History Society, which is one of the oldest conservation organizations in the world. And I work on species conservation. But there are lots of questions that come in as to what conservation is, and one of the most common questions is, what do conservationists really do? So we are going to talk a little today about conservation as a career, about conservation and how we can all get started with it from our houses even during the lockdown, and how we can really go forward in trying to do our bit for the earth. So if you're watching this, this probably means that you are connected to Sanctuary Asia, which really was my beginning into the world of conservation. Because when I was a little girl and I used to go to a library in Delhi, I found this magazine with beautiful animals on the cover and inside, and I realized that there was a small but determined community of people who were interested in wildlife and interested to do something and make it part of their profession. First off, let's start with the basics. Conservation is not just saving animals. Feeding dogs on the street, for example, would not count as conservation, or taking a tiger and putting it in a zoo may not directly result in conservation either. Conservation really is about protection of species, especially species that may be at the risk of becoming extinct, such as tigers, such as giraffes in Africa, such as the one-horned rhinoceros, what you get in Kaziranga, Assam, or the great Indian bustard, this beautiful desert bird that's named after our country. Now, because we are trying to conserve species, it is not enough to just put them in a zoo, or it is not enough to just save individual species. What we need to do is try to save the population of the species we are talking about. This is usually only possible if we conserve ecosystems, which is the natural habitats that species live in. So if I have to protect the great Indian bustard, or if you have to protect the tiger, then you need to work with protecting the natural habitats, the natural ecosystems that those animals are found in. So for example, the Gir lion, or the Gujarat lion as it's now known, is the last population of the Asiatic lion in the state of Gujarat. In order to conserve this lion, we need to make sure that the lion has plenty of habitat, not just in Gujarat but in other states as well, and we need to ensure that for the future of the species, we need to have enough dry forest, which is basically the ecosystem that the lion lives in. Now, what is this word ecosystem? Simply put, ecosystem means ecological systems. So even a lake in your vicinity is an ecosystem in itself. So are forests, so are wetlands, so are grasslands, so are beaches, so are places on islands, and usually species have evolved and adapted over years to adapt to the ecosystem they are found in. I'll give another example. There's a Gangetic dolphin that lives in Ganga, in the river Ganga and its tributaries, and because the water of the river Ganga is so full of sediment, the dolphin has adapted and evolved itself to actually be effectively blind, because the water is so thick that it doesn't actually have any use for eyes, and therefore the dolphin is blind. It has adapted itself to the ecosystem it is part of, and it uses echolocation and sonar in order to find its way around the river. Now, one of the very important basics of conservation is ecology. Ecology is the relationships of species to their natural world. So for example, let's start with something that we can all do. If you can do this tomorrow, or tell your students to do this from now onwards, we can just start observing a tree, preferably a large mature tree with flowers and fruit outside our windows, or terraces, wherever we can access them, and we just start observing the relationship of the tree to wild animals. Now, that is the basis of ecology. For example, what is the relationship of the tiger to the forest, or the great Indian bustard to the desert? So if I observe, for example, the palash tree or the semel tree, which are Indian trees that flower at around this time of the year, or if I even observe a tree like laburnum, which is about to flower in summer, then I can start seeing what the relationships ecological relationships other species have to that tree. So for example, they may be feeding on it, they may be nesting in it, they may be hiding in it, they may be using it for shelter. So ecology forms a very important basis for conservation. Conservation is about trying to protect not just the animal but also the natural habitat it lives in. Now, in order to get started, it is important for all those who even have a small interest in wildlife to begin to observe wildlife around you, and trust me, there's wildlife all around you. So there are leopards that come to Bombay, there are cobras that come to kitchens, there are migratory birds like rosy starlings that come to this big city of Delhi, and animals are just all around us. So let me just show you how you can get started. This is a pair of binoculars. Probably every bird watcher's first initiation into wildlife. They say that if you see a wild animal at close with very minute detail, then you probably fall in love with it, because something that looks very brown or drab may actually be really bright. Something that you cannot see very clearly may appear to be much more interesting and much more detailed if you use binoculars. So typically this is a very standard pair of binoculars. Your eyes will go here in the smaller portions. So it's like a pair of spectacles that allows you to have telescopic vision, and this is the other end, and you just put it and you can adjust it according to your width of the eye from each other. Binoculars are important, but in today's age cameras are really important. I cannot emphasize how important it is to study your subject, and it could be the crow outside your window, it could be the mena trying to nest at this time of the year, but whatever it is that is around you, it's important to try to get started. So this is a bridge camera, which is basically something between a DSLR, which is a big lens, and a point and shoot, which is a smaller lens. The other things to know is that we often don't know the names of the species that we have around us. So, you know, it's really important to know names, because if you know my name is Neha, for example, you may remember something else that I may do in my life. So many people see birds outside their window and they just don't know what it is. So if you know the name, then you can search for that bird, you can ask other people about it, you can create a story around that bird, and that's also a very important way to get involved in conservation, is by knowing what you're looking at. I want to recommend two books here. So birds and butterflies are both easy things to see in cities. So this is a field guide. So a field guide is a book that basically tells you identification of birds or butterflies or wild animals. It could also be snakes. So this is a Grimmett and Inskip book. They are the authors of this book. It's called Birds of the Indian Subcontinent. There are loads of other field guides as well that you can use, and basically what it does is, all field guides will do this. You have the picture of the bird on one side and the description and the habitat range on the other, and the way to find the species is to go at the back of the book where there's an index. So because you may not know the name, you may not be able to use the index. That is when you open the book and you go through the bird families. It's all grouped according to families, and you can start identifying generally what the bird looks like. So a pigeon looks different from a crow looks different from a peacock, and you can start seeing their pictures and you can start learning the families and gradually getting to know the name of the bird. Then we have 1300 bird species. In India, we also have more than 1300 butterfly species in India, and butterflies are really interesting because they are wild animals, but they come right to our gardens if we plant the right flowers. This is another guide. This is The Butterflies of India by Peter Smetacek. It's a very good book. Again, it's a field guide, so it will have the pictures of the butterfly, various different morphs or various different versions of the same butterfly, if that is the case, because butterflies also do change color, and it has the name and where it's found. So let's talk about careers in conservation, which is also a question that I get a lot. So we just learned what conservation really is. Conservation is about trying to protect not just species but the natural ecosystems that they live in. The two cannot kind of go without each other, and there are several conservation sort of programs or projects done by the government, for example. So you have Project Tiger, you have Project Snow Leopard, you have Project Great Indian Bustard, not exactly a project but more like a long plan to save the species, and you also have Project Elephant. So these are all flagship programs of the government which try to save the species and save the habitat it lives in. Now, what do conservationists such as me do? I work for the Bombay Natural History Society, which is not just India's but one of the world's oldest conservation organizations. It started off in Bombay, which is why it's called it's got Bombay in its name. And a lot of the work that the BNHS does is hardcore research, primary research in wild animals and the habitats they live in. And we also work on policy, in which we try to use the scientific data and information that we have in feeding into policy and law, so that we can institutionalize the scientific needs of wild animals into our planning processes. We also rely a lot on people to understand, appreciate nature. One of the missions of BNHS is to make sure that people can appreciate the natural beauty and the natural heritage that we have. And this brings me to Sanctuary, which is also a personal favorite. I think my association with Sanctuary began when I was 9 years old, because I saw for the first time in my life a wildlife magazine, a magazine with a wild animal on the cover, and I opened it and every page had a picture of a wild animal, and that was the first time that I understood that, you know, people could be interested in wildlife. There's a community of people out there, and at that time Sanctuary was the only wildlife magazine in India. Even today, I mean, the space is still, you know, we don't have as many wildlife magazines as we should have, but Sanctuary is still there, and you know, it has played a very important role in my growing up, because it nurtured and fed my curiosity towards the natural world. And through the tips and tools that I've shared with you today, I really hope that you can also start appreciating the natural world around you. And coming to conservation careers, so there are many different kinds of things that are associated with conservation. So you have people working for non-profit organizations such as BNHS or the WWF or Aranyak in the Northeast, for example. There are these organizations that one can work for. A master's degree in wildlife is helpful, but it's not always necessary. Typically the kind of work that happens here is project based. So you have a project, you have to do your research, you have to do your recommendations, you have to work along with the government, along with different stakeholders in order to make conservation sustainable. Then there's another aspect of conservation. It could be more, which is the forensic side. So for example, there are people who work against the wildlife trade. They try to stop the trade in wildlife, and learning forensic science or learning genetic science is another important aspect. So there are people required who can work in genetic science, in understanding DNA of animals, in tracking wildlife crime, or in just understanding the different species that we have, and understanding where they come from in India. That's one aspect. Then we also have need for sociologists who are trained in understanding or working with the community, because conservation is all about social change. You cannot just ask people to do what you're saying, or you can't just expect society to listen to what you're saying. It's all a dynamic process that's cultural, ecological, scientific, but also very human centric. So there's always a need for community people who can work with community or who've learned or trained in sociology. Finally, conservation also needs communication specialists, and because so much of what we don't understand or so much of what we fear is because we don't have knowledge about it. So you may be really afraid of something that looks like a snake, and maybe it's just a big earthworm, or maybe it's a non-venomous snake which you really don't need to fear. Or maybe you screamed as a child when you saw a slug in your garden, which is the most harmless animal ever in the world out there, and that's because you didn't have the correct information. And it is all about knowing getting the right name for the right species, understanding its value, or understanding what it does in the ecosystem, and that's where it all starts from. So conservation does need communications people as well. So people who've studied journalism or people who have an interest can always intern with some of the organizations that I spoke about. I'll put a few more organizations in links and send that over. But it's a big field, it's a growing field. We are all at home right now because of the coronavirus pandemic, and I think one of the things that everyone is reflecting about is whether nature is something that we can control. And I think we can all conclude that nature is not in our control. The earth is an entity which will always carry on with or without us, and therefore we need to try to reduce our impact, our negative impact on the earth. So people are talking about conservation at this point. I think conservation as a field is only going to grow. I think the world needs more conservationists. It needs more people who can think between the departments and between the way that we've always done things. We need to think about what kind of future we want to make, whether it's all going to be coal-fired energy, whether it's going to be cutting every single tree to make more houses or to lay more concrete. These are all things that we need to think about. And one of the best things now is that we have a lot of young people, really young people, like 11-year-olds, 15-year-olds, speaking up against extinction. It's called the Extinction Rebellion, as striking for climate on Fridays particularly, in which they're saying that they want an earth in which they can breathe the air, they can drink water that's clean. They basically want an earth that's not in the state that the earth is in right now. So I think conservation is exciting, and as teachers you have a very important role in nurturing curiosity, interest and wonder in the natural world, which is basically the only home that we have. And just to end with saying that once you start getting to know nature, there's really no end to it. It takes several lifetimes to know everything that's around you, and that is one of the most intimate and one of the most scientific journeys you can ever be on. And I wish you good luck, and I hope that from tomorrow you will notice the wild things around you and hopefully spread the good message about them. Thank you so much.